everyone, Mike Levin. Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. On my way to the Poconos. It's a day off from work so we can go vote. And I am emptying out the public storage out there. Hopefully this will be my last trip. We will see. And what a great opportunity to talk, once I get out here on 280 and 80, it's such easy, beautiful driving. It's funny how from the middle of where I start out on these trips, I can very easily head north and go to the Catskills. It's now muscle memory. I can also head west and go into a different set of mountains out here in the Poconos, and equally comfortable. Although I must say, the drive itself, this drive in particular, is so much more pleasant out west into the Poconos than the drive north into the Catskills. There's a lot of direction changing and quick thinking, getting off at exits and stuff, and dealing with a much more, how shall we say, a New York vibed driver. I guess it must be New Yorkers here on this road too, but maybe it's because there's so much less driving decisions to be made. You just start out on a direction and go. Oh, exit 8A is a rest stop with some places to get some food. I might do that before this drive really gets underway. This is the part where your ears pop. This is the part where you give a large part of the gas you're spending on the drive, because, this is the now you're in the mountains part of it. It's all an uphill incline that you can really feel. 8A, Prospect Avenue, West Orange. No. You've tricked me in the past. That is not a rest stop. That's getting off into a neighborhood. And I don't feel like doing that yet. That's one of the things that is a downside with this route versus going into the Catskills. The rest stops suck on this route compared to all those interstate style, easy drive in, get your Dunkin' Donuts and gas up and drive out without a pesky little quaint town to try and tourist trap you in. All the exits, I think, all the rest stop exits, all the food and gas stops here are really a little town. And the question is how easy it is to drive off into that town. I'm not using GPS for the drive, so I really want to make sure I choose one where it's no-brainer. How can that not make me think of co-processing these days? You know what's on my mind? What's on my mind is after I work through these projects to get a perfectly good Noah's Ark out of an LXD Linux container under Windows 10/11, because I'm taking the path I believe more frequently traveled. There's going to be a lot of purists out there saying, just do it on Linux on the metal. Well, Linux kind of is on the metal under NT, thanks to Microsoft's thinking ahead with its NT technology. If you're using Windows today, your loyalties, not loyalties, or your voting with your dollar, your shopping dollar, you get a convenient preloaded system, right? So the big philosophical and almost religious split, what operating system do you use, is between Windows and Mac, with most of the Mac elite, the elite people, both in development and the arts, right? Because since Macs pulled it out of the fire, since Apple pulled Macs out of the fire, Adobe software is on Macs just as well as it is on Windows. So people who want to feel elite can both be on their Adobe software and be on the Mac with a high-performance version, because Mac does that stuff these days, since it's switched to Unix and has done whatever proprietary stuff in addition to that these days to have really high performance. I don't know, maybe a file system that's logged or something, logged file systems, memory protection, and rings of protection, the stuff that NT does. Has your choice of operating systems aligning with high degrees of versatility at the hypervisor level, shall we say. The tricks I'm doing today, where I'm running Windows 10, plus I'm running Ubuntu 20.04 for Vim to do my daily journaling. Plus I'm running side by side with that an 18.04 Ubuntu to host LXD, so I can run another 20.04 as my Jupyter Lab server. And that's the state of affairs right now. And I'm going to reduce that soon. But for right now, on my feeble, weak little, it's probably 586 multi-core Intel system. It's a Microsoft PowerBook or something, but it's the laptop. It's, it's not the Surface. It's like a Surface laptop. The $800, which, I think is cheap, but people will remind me that laptops are $100 now if you want to go compromising on components and quality enough. But the Microsoft quality build for $800 is pretty darn good. So I'm on what feels like a very high quality laptop with a touch screen that plays back video full screen just fine, and I would imagine would play a game pretty well too, and runs 4 operating systems by default in my normal mode of operations. Windows, Ubuntu 20.04, Ubuntu 18.04, and 20.04 again under that. And then you can even count the Minix, but that's not a hypervisor Intel trick. It's not one of the OSs that's running under a normal context. It's got a full network stack. It's got everything that it takes to call it a computer, but it is not under rule of the hypervisor. It is something that Intel and maybe a handful of other vendors can get into remotely, which is generally used for managing system resources, so that sleep is not really sleep, and other things like that, to have Intel's managed console. I forget exactly what it's, I always forget it, but that's one of the things it's designed to be, to fade away into the background, and to not be thought about, and to just keep your system running at much better performance than back in the days of before Windows had permission control. Back in the days of Windows 95 and Trojans and viruses, right? Remember how bad it was on Windows? Your computer slowly getting slower and slower until you had to ditch it. It was worse than designed obsolescence. It was designed obsolescence that leaked all your information all over the place as it decayed, because it was spyware and stuff doing it. So Microsoft put the kibosh on that with Windows NT, and you really didn't feel it in the consumer branch of Windows. A little bit under Vista, but Vista was universally hated. So then you felt it properly under, I believe it was like Windows 7. Did Windows 7 come before or after Vista? But that was like the universally loved version of Windows before they went all Windows 8 Metro. They tried to get all mobile, wacky, and then they shoved it into the start bar saying, oh, that all Metro ribbons interface is here, but we'll call it tiles under the start bar, and it's optional. And then Windows 10, and it got all marketing. Not right away. The first version of Windows 10 I liked. I think they hit a magic harmonic. That was the Windows I really came to connect with, and it's the one that I run for day-to-day daily productivity today. But it didn't stay the Windows 10 I loved. It had feature creep, and it basically became Windows 11 underneath of you up until they had to do some deep changes in order to support, I guess, what's really the new Windows 11 / Windows subsystem for Linux context, right? So, in my opinion, the only reason for Windows 11 to exist, insofar as I've seen it, and I have a machine, I run Windows 11 on one of my machines. I am not impressed. It's Windows 10, but so much less. And in particular, it's less control over how you can make it look. You can't get rid of the clock, and you can't get rid of the final few notification icons. What's with that? And then the virtual desktop left-right screen swooshing animations are taken away on the keyboard shortcut. Windows key plus, I guess it's Control Windows key, left and right arrow, which make these butter smooth left and right Windows transitions under Windows 10. Don't do that under Windows 11. They make these popping transitions. But the butter smooth transitions are still there if you use a 4-finger swoosh. And this is the state of Windows today. It's very strange. Microsoft's focus is definitely somewhere else than user interface. It's reduce user interface options and cleanliness and smoothness and increase increase Linux friendliness. I like what they're doing with Linux with Windows 11. I don't like to be forced onto Windows 11 to do it. I wish all the features of WSL under Windows 11, such as the graphics version, WSL-G, was available under Windows 10. I wish it was backported to Windows 10. I sort of resent. And now there's two goodies. They're bringing System D. They're like, System D under Linux. We know you want it. You just gotta be on Windows 11. No Windows 10 backport for you. So they're almost, I can almost feel the strong arming to get me off of Windows 10. What is it, Microsoft? Is it that you can't backport? You don't want to support it forever? Windows 10 should have been the last version of Windows you'll ever need. I think they might have been quoted as saying that at some point as part of Windows 10's marketing push. But no sooner did you just get comfortable on Windows 10 saying, okay, I can make this my native Windows operating system for a while, then they replace it with Windows 11 that has some very objectionable pieces to it. Please no. Please no. So what does that matter? What does that matter? Well, Microsoft is trying to make it the company you don't think about that is still the record profits year to year. It's still up there with Apple and Google and Amazon. And it's just that you think about those companies all the time. You think about Apple, Google, and Amazon butting into your business every day because, you know, they got their Alexas and their Androids and their iPhones, right? It's in the three beloved surface areas, mostly mobile, and when not mobile, well, it's just because you gosh darn don't need computers to get the benefit of technology today, thanks to the Alexa platform. And that makes Amazon, combined with their hard goods and order taking and fulfillment infrastructure, a huge enough member at the table that they're in the ranks of the discussion when you list these companies. I think there's something people call FANG out there, and they elevate Facebook to this level. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? The Facebook platform with its weak hardware entries and banking everything on the easily objectionable metaverse that doesn't bring anything into your life that can't be brought somehow better by Amazon with its connection to hard goods. The connections you really need in your life are you with the stuff you need to live, not with your friends' automatic. What is it? It's like a newsletter. Facebook is the newsletter of your friends that automatically writes itself, plus memes. It is definitely an endorphin, a neurotransmitter fix. You know, what's your poison? Are you a dopamine fiend, a dopamine addict, or are you a serotonin addict? Do you like your warm and fuzzies? Are you a homebody like me? Or are you a constant traveler and an adventurer and a social butterfly who lives off of interaction with others and validation from them? Here comes the fuzz coming out onto the road. Not for me, I don't see no flashing lights, but there 4x4 on the side of the road is casually pulling out onto it. And we keep note of things like that in our code processor. So, the discussion I want to have, the technology discussion I want to have, well, it's certainly that my Noah's Ark LXD Linux container is at its early stages of birth. It has had a model to base itself on in the form of Linux, my distro of Linux. It's not really a distro of Linux so much as it is a respin, a magic cocktail of certain versions of things when they were kind of at their peak, and I was just discovering them, and I found all these things super love-worthy. But I wouldn't want to touch them with a 100-foot pole today. So, to make a code execution platform that could run anywhere, in the past, like 2012, 2013, well, you could use real hardware. You could use a Raspberry Pi, like 2012. The Raspberry Pi came onto the scene, and it took SD cards that could be imaged as their hard drive. And this seemed like a wonderful alternative to virtual machines for people like me who had an inherent hatred, distrust, dislike for the resource-gobbling soap bubble of a server that was a virtual machine under anything. Name your hardware. x86. I got the low battery warning. That is probably what made it stop recording video the last time up. I'll see if I can make it go, but really no promises. This video might be abruptly brought to an end because I forgot to have it ready to charge. It's just a matter of a cable. Anyway, I'll probably wrap up here because containers, rah, 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 I am a very big fan. And the LXD platform is replacing what I managed to cobble together with some very well-supported binaries, QEMU binaries. QEMU is a PC emulator platform. Less efficient, the least efficient form of virtual machines you can take up, but it worked. It worked well, and it could host a very minimal version of Linux called Tiny Core Linux. So Linux is version 7 point something of Tiny Core Linux, which is like a 8 megabyte, 10 megabyte version of Linux. You know, you're used to hearing, those numbers are so small in today's context, you gotta say, it was just a few floppy disks from the olden days. 10 megabytes was 10 1 megabyte floppies. It was keychain drives when keychain drives first started to be a thing. USB thumb drives today can hold these enormous amounts, but the small versions from the past could have still held a 10 megabyte Linux, so it could go with you anywhere. It was friendly with cloud drives like Dropbox, so you could have a system that could fully run your code that could go with you anywhere, a truly nomadic instance of Linux with persistence. So when you did some coding and did some work and saved it, and you brought it up again later, your saved work was there, even whether you moved between PCs and Macs and Linuxes get this stuff to work under Docker. But then eventually came LXD, and now all my old Linux tricks are possible under LXD. A few magic server build scripts, and you've got a nomadic server to go. And that's where my current work is going. And I have it just about doing Git cloning after a server build script. So server build script gives you a fancy little Jupyter Lab server, a host, something that you can get to through your Windows web browser. So it gives a Linux-like environment that you can realize the value of without having to learn Linux right away. Yet it's there and ready for you to log into and poke around and check out even Jupyter, how it's running. Log into that as a GNU screen session, do something on Jupyter Notebook, watch the logged in console output of Jupyter Lab change, and completely hide it when you want to, unlike a Windows desktop install of Jupyter Lab where you can't get rid of the when it's Anaconda you can't get rid of the server window, and when it's the Jupyter Lab-desktop out of GitHub, it's mysteriously running. You can't access it, and it's two separate installs, and every time you upgrade you have to uninstall these two things anyway, and sometimes it double runs. So I've got it running a wonderful new way. It's very much based on this Noah's Ark concept, and it's just about able to do some Git cloning after the server build. And once it can clone some projects out of GitHub using an account I set up specifically for that, it can hand the reins over to you and say, here's what some real dev work looks like. Forget VS Code for a minute. Have another way of looking at the world where you know how to use the SSH program, you know how to use the Git program, you know how to use Python directly without going through an IDE, how to build Python commands, how to do scheduling, how to basically do a version of what you would almost think of as web serving, but without a web server. Instead of requests coming into a web server, you say at what time during the day scripts are going to run on your behalf, not on the behalf of some person hitting a web server. Web servers put you in a position of servitude. Those who learn how to do web dev are learning how to put themselves into the role of the genie. Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? I don't like it. I don't like being on the hook for that. I like pulling things baked out of the oven and serving it. You can do server work. You can serve things according to a schedule off of a menu that can be enhanced and new ingredients brought into it over time and be managed like a restaurant. And people know to come to you because they like what your restaurant serves. That's my world. Deliverables. They start their life in Jupyter Notebook under this context, often from Windows, but really from Linux because of all the reasons in the videos leading up to this. And then a clear path onto Linux. Not clear and easy because everything has to be paid for somewhere. And paying for this old school Linuxy component in your life, this part of your existence, which is old school Linux, you pay for it with learning old school terminal here and there, keeping a journal in Vim. And there you have it. That's what I'm about. My battery's about to run out. This is a good place to wrap up the video. I put a nice sharp edge on the point.